We are going to skin the cat, right? In order to do that, we are going to find a pocket, and we are going to try to separate the skin, right, from the connective tissue that connects to the muscles. So here's the skin. When I'm pinching with my forceps, that's the skin, and then the brown is what you see as the muscle, and I have to break the connective tissue between those two things in order to skin this cat. So we're going to give it a shot. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to create pockets. It's all about creating pockets within pockets, and then using your fingers in a sweeping motion to separate the skin from the muscles. So the first thing I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to find a nice area of connective tissue that I can separate. So here's a nice piece of connective tissue. So you can see I'm going to try to get my finger in here, and then, like I said, I'm just going to try to create a pocket and try to separate the skin from the muscles. All right. So once you have a pocket, then what you want to do is you want to enlarge that pocket. And then once you enlarge that pocket, go ahead and start taking your scissors and cutting, right? So you can see, I'm just kind of more like a liposuction method, where I'm taking a finger and all I'm doing is just basically rubbing the inner part of the skin to separate the skin from the muscle. Basically, I'm breaking up the connective tissue that connects the skin to the muscle. Alright, so that's as far as my tiny fingers can go. I've created a pocket, and I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to just simply cut right down the middle. And I'm going to cut as far as I can to the end of my pocket, and then once I'm done that, then it's, again, create a pocket, right, finger sweeping motion, and then cut. So it's always create a pocket, cut, create a pocket, cut. Right, and so depending on the cat, this can be tedious. You can be aggressive, just don't be overly aggressive, but you can rather be firm with the skin of the cat. Another technique that I'm using, you can kind of see, is I'm pulling up on the fur and pushing down on the muscle tissue, so I make sure I don't rip the muscles. But for the most part, I'm just kind of using my finger in a sweeping motion, and I'm just breaking the connective tissue between the skin and the muscle. So when I cut, I like to pull up on the skin or the fur and then cut. I don't like to take my scissors and go down into the muscle. That way I don't accidentally cut the muscle. Alright. At some point in time, depending on your comfortability, we may or may not use a scalpel. I know that you can take the scalpel and basically cut the inner surface of the skin, right? Or using light sweep motions, you can do that, and that makes it easier to remove the skin. But for me, I just kind of like using the hands, because I can feel the connective tissue. I know how hard I have to, what kind of force I can apply, and I'm not worried about tearing the muscle when I do it with my hands. Whereas a scalpel, I can't tell. So again, I'm just creating a pocket. So now I make my straight line incision or scissor cut all the way to the female genitalia. Because my cat is female. If you have a male, you just cut all the way down to the male genitalia. Okay, So now I can begin separation of the skin from the thigh, right? And I like to try to separate the skin from the anterior thigh and the posterior thigh as much as I can from the posterior thigh as I can. Make a cut. Again, I'm holding down the muscle and pulling the skin. That makes things go a little bit faster. Alright, so I'm going to try to get both sides of the thigh again. Alright, here we go. So I like to tell the students to pull the fur as far down as you can, past the calcaneus. So, you know, in the cat, the calcaneus would be roughly right around here. This area, you can see Achilles tendon, so this would be the calcaneus. So I like to pull the fur all the way down as far as I can, and then make a nice circular cut with your scissors all the way around. Alright, so there's that. There's one leg. So you can still see it's still attached to the tail, right? I'm going to make a cut around the genitalia here in a second, but I want to do the next leg. Again, I've created a pocket. I'm going to go ahead and make my cut. I'm going to create a pocket again. Alright. Pull the skin and just use my thumb to separate the muscle from the skin. Do the same on this side. So you can see I'm just using my finger. I'm breaking up the connective tissue. There we go. Alright, so again, I'm going to pull the skin as far down the calcaneus as I can. There's the skin. I'm just going to take the scissors and make a circular cut. There you go. So, most of the anterior side, right, is pretty much done. Some things I'll remove here just to make it completely done. Right, use my finger, and do the, pull on the skin, and then just kind of use my finger to separate the connective tissue. And I'm going to start the back, makes it easier, so when I do get to the back, right, it'll be easier. So again, the fur is still attached in the lower extremity to the genitalia and the tail. So in a few minutes, after I'm done doing a little more separation, I'm actually going to make a circular cut that encompasses the tail, right, that encompasses the tail and the genitalia. Okay. Alright. So, there's that first incision, so now I'm just going to actually begin making my circular cut around the genitalia. Now I'm going to make my cut around the tail. Right. So I've done it. I've skinned a few cats before, so I kind of know how to cut, but for those of you that are first starting off, I would advise you to make sure you look at the underlying structures before you begin, cutting your cat. That way you mistakenly don't cut, or you don't mistakenly cut muscle. Alright, so there's the fur. It is completely left around the genitalia and the tail, and because I began separation of the skin from the back, it makes it nice and easy to remove the skin. Alright, so a little bit of prep work on my part. Now I'm just going to kind of go as far as I can up the back, and then after that I got to go back to the front and remove all the skin off of the arm and the paw, and then finally I'll remove all the skin off of the neck and the head. So now I'm going to go back to the front. Alright, and again, just like before, right, and I'm going to create a pocket in the arm, right, try to separate the anterior side and the posterior side as best I can. That way it makes it easier to pull the skin down over the forearm, right, as such. But I am actually going to cut it first. Now I've created a pocket. I'll go ahead and make my cut towards the elbow. Again, lift and cut, lift and cut. Right, so now there's the forearm. Right, I'm going to do a little prep work. Separate a little bit off the back and shoulder again. Okay, so really all I have left is this. Now, the forearm is going to be a little challenging because you might not be able to get your finger all the way down into the forearm because it's tightly packed. So you may end up using, another instrument, right? This old dull probe, and then you just kind of go in there, and basically you're going to scrape the inner layer of the skin, right? And by doing so, you're going to just create this little narrow pocket, and then that should be enough to get your scissors, and then begin the separation of your of the skin from the forearm. All right, so here's the probe, right? We're going to insert it as far as I can. It's pretty much as far as I can do it right now. And then I'm just going to take the scissors and go ahead and cut. Now, it's really important, right, that you lift and cut, lift and cut. You definitely don't want to cut any of the muscles of the forearm. All right. Alrighty. Okay, so gone as far as I can, and then carefully I'm going to hold the forearm muscles, and this is kind of important because there's a muscle right here called the brachioradialis, where if you just kind of pull the skin, you can actually rip that muscle because it's so thin in a cat. So I'm going to actually hold the forearm muscles, and then I'm going to pull the skin all the way down as far as I can to the paw, right? And then, just like before when we did the lower leg, I'm going to go ahead and cut. Right, make a circular cut around the paw. Alright, and there you go. Front forelimb is done. Now we just repeat the process on the other one. Okay, so all I did was switch to the other side. Alright, created a pocket. Alright, there you go. So again, now I'm just going to try to isolate both sides of the arm. Right, I already did the anterior side, so now let's do the posterior side. In a cat, really is no anterior, posterior, it's more dorsal ventral. But since it's laying on its back, I'll call it anterior, posterior. Alright, so I'm going to create a pocket in the forearm with my finger as far as I can, and then if not, I'll use again the dull probe and then just kind of make my way all the way down, then create a little pocket. And now all I'm doing is scraping the inside of the skin. Alright, and then I'll take my scissors, again lift and cut, lift and cut. I do not want to cut any of the forearm muscles. Lift and cut. Alright, and I can begin pulling back the skin. And once I get to the forearm, again, very important, you want to hold your forearm especially the brachioradialis, so that you do not pull it off when you are skinning the paw. Alright, so there we go. Alright, so I've pulled it down as far as I can, the skin, and now I'm just going to, again, create a circular cut. Alright, so the anterior is pretty much done, right? Now I flip the cat over, and now it's just a matter of separating the skin from the rest of the back, right? The upper shoulders, the neck, and as far up the head as you can. Remember, there's still going to be some skin left on the head. Right, so I'm just little separation. Right, create a pocket. Right, so you can see I'm up by the neck. I want to go a little further up, and that's because I'm going to be isolating muscles called the trapezius, and that runs right at the bottom of the base of the back of the skull. So, alright. So here, again, separation, create a pocket, and at some point I'm going to cut this fur because it's going to impede how far I can go up the head. So I might just do that now, and then cut some more off later. Okay, so there's that original opening of the cat right around the neck area. So all I've done is just kind of separate in the back area, and I've gone up the neck as far as I want to at this point in time. So I'm just going to remove some fur because it's slowing me down. Alright, so again, kind of look at what you're cutting. You don't want to just blindly cut. Okay. Okay. Separate some more fur. Okay. I can cut. Alright. I have pretty much done what I need to do. Is there any more fur I want to take off? Probably a little bit more. I'm actually going to cut a little bit more of the skin, a little higher, maybe closer to the ear, only because, again, I'll be isolating these things called the trapezius muscles, and I want to make sure that I can clearly see them. Okay, that's the skin right there. Alright. If I wanted to, I could take more fur off, but I think I'm good. You know, maybe just a little more at the top of the skull here, but I think I'm good. And that is how you guys will skin your cat, okay, in preparation for the dissection of cat musculature.